Coming live every Tuesday at 7 with Steve, Cat, Ryan, Amanda, and Eric. And the voice of NEW, Vince Berry. Hitting all the topics like a clothesline flurry. Turn up your speakers and hear them out. You can listen from your car, even on your couch. They too raw, who NXT? Handing out Smackdowns, follow on IG. Plus, it's sponsored by Tag Me a Date. Go to YouTube and sub now for every update. It's all wrestling here. No safe space. Now listen in. Time to hear from some of the greats.
Yo, 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 yo. Pop a 40 and check your rollies. It's crime time. Brooklyn, Brooklyn. We're bringing it.
I'm gonna cry.
Bringing it. We're bringing it.
Oh.
That's how they yo. No more Hollywood.
Not right.
This is Hollywood and it's crime time.
You know, not fucking right. It's not right.
It's just, you know, you see shit like that and it breaks your heart. And it's not even, I mean, listen, a lot of it is because of Shad, but his son too. It's just, you know what I mean?
They found the son.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, the son's alive. He told
Oh, he's alive.
Lifeguard, they told the lifeguard, take my son, and then he got pulled by the riptide.
Oh, see, I somehow I missed. Okay.
Yeah, his 10-year-old son survived. He died, I should say,
it's
we're 99% positive he's dead. I mean, they called off the search, but it was in effort to save his kid.
Well, right. Yeah, I mean, listen, at this point, if they didn't find him, it's a wrap.
So I suppose if you haven't heard this yet, we'll give you a brief story. Over the weekend, Shad Gaspard, former WWE superstar, tag team Crime Time with JTG. Haven't been with the company for a while, but still making wrestling appearances, still doing conventions. There was a point where they fell off and they didn't do that, but they were kind of making a resurgence. They were together with Shad was together with MVP.
Great shape, by the way.
He was in fantastic shape. He was doing movies. I forget which movie I was watching the other night, and I recognized the big demon tattoo that he had on his shoulder. And I was like, that's Shad. And he was just, he'd just be in movies and he'd be in TV shows and stuff. And then him and JTG got back together to do the Crime Time thing at the conventions and all that. And so he was with his family this weekend in San Diego. They allowed, I guess the beaches are open to the point where you can swim, but they don't want you congregating on the beach, like hanging out on the beach and drinking sodas and shit like that. So him and his son were out swimming. There was a riptide. The son, who I believe was like 10 years old, somewhere around there, was getting pulled out. Shad was getting pulled out. 2 surfers flagged down lifeguards. Lifeguards made the swim out. They attempted to rescue Shad, and Shad said, no, go after my son first and then come back for me. But by the time they came back for him, he got pulled by the riptide. So we don't know if he got pulled under. We don't know if he got pulled out. Whatever it is, he wasn't where they left him when he said, no, rescue my son instead, which, I mean, you don't know what, because none of us have ever really been in that situation, I don't think, to say, all right, who's going to live? Is it going to be me? Is it going to be my son? I have to make this split decision.
I mean, listen, I could say being a father of 2,
right.
I mean, you live for your kids at this point. So I think any decent parent would choose their kid over themselves. You know what I mean?
There's no question.
But
exactly.
Somebody think, I don't know if he would think, well, if they get me, then all of us can go get him. But he said, no, get him first.
You don't think like that.
Right.
You don't think like that as a parent.
So,
absolutely.
Right. He says, go get the kid. By the time they come back, so, as you said, the Coast Guard has called off their search. However, L.A. County Police have said that they are continuing their search. They also, I read that Chris Masters has gotten together a search party, and he is, him and those people who know Shad are continuing to search. At this point, unfortunately, it feels like we're not looking for a living person. We are looking for a body or for remnants, clothing, jewelry. It's morbid to think that way, but unfortunately, it's been so many days out in the elements like that in the water. So,
how many days has it officially been? When did this?
Was it Saturday?
Was it Saturday?
3 days, and just as heartbreaking, the fact is that his wife was on the beach and
Right.
saw all of this.
Well, I saw a
Jesus.
thing online. Somebody posted, not knowing that it was a wrestler. It was just like posting to, oh, I saw this go down, and I saw people run out. The lifeguards run out. He was typing all this up, and when he said it, basically the indication he gave was when they came back in with the kid, they knew that was it. The kid knows, the family knows, like everybody kind of knew that was it, but are still. You want that closure, and I understand why they would want that closure. And
Yeah,
absolutely.
Of course.
I hope they're able to get it. But it's an extraordinary circumstance that he was put in. 10 years ago, he stopped an armed robbery. So
that's right. I forgot about that.
This is just a pattern of him being a nice guy and like not being a shit person and just being like the person you're supposed to be and the father you're supposed to be and just a good role model for people. So,
so Eric,
this sucks.
So Eric, how long ago was this now?
This was I think a year ago at WrestleCon, right before Mania.
All right, so
I got the chance to meet Shad and JTG, and they were nice enough to help me out with something. We've been wanting to do this for a while. We did want to wait a little bit.
Well, the idea was we were going to drop it when the relaunch, and we get Tag Me a Date back up and running.
Under the circumstances, we felt this is the right thing to do. We're great guy, and it's just I don't even know what to think right now.
Yeah.
It's your boy Shaq Gas Money JTG, aka Primetime, aka TNT. TagMeDate.com is the site, is the shit for wrestling fans who are trying to link up. You know what I'm saying? I want to give a big shout out to the first TagMeDate.com couple, Ryan. Yeah, because you know what? They turn wrestling night into date night. So can you. Shit.
So just the fact that they were willing to do that for us just kind of shows you what kind of guys they were. And, Eric, I mean, you said it, too, they just were genuinely nice guys all around.
Yeah, they were so open and cool they were like hanging out with everybody, and when I saw the opportunity to they were doing like shout outs and stuff, I'm like, this is great. And they turned out, before they shot the video, they were like, oh my God, that's a fucking awesome idea. Tag me a date. So it just went from there.
Yeah, it's hard to articulate in a situation like this because this isn't John Cena, this isn't Hulk Hogan, this is Shad Gaspard of Crime Time, and it was like a known travesty at the time where these guys never won the tag team titles. They stole them from Lance Cade and what's his name there.
I think they were pretty underrated actually as a team.
They were. And that was the thing. It was after he got fired. I never should have picked up that phone, but we're not talking about, the world's greatest. It's not like this happened to The Rock. It didn't happen to Hulk Hogan, John Cena, Ric Flair. This happened to a lower level guy who some people might not quite remember. I remember Crime Time pretty fondly from that period of wrestling. A lot of people do, and it's different because it's not like we're mourning a celebrity. It's not like, oh man, I watched the Rolling Stones and now they all died in a plane crash or something. This is a guy. This is just a guy who you would happen to see at a convention, who was a friendly person, who had a family, who did all of the right things for his family.
He's our age too.
Yeah.
Only like 39 years old.
It's amazing. He wasn't that old of a guy. And honestly, I thought kind of in the back of my mind, if there was ever an opportunity for those guys, they could have came back to the WWE for like a short tag team run. They could have gone to AEW, could have used them. They could have done something on the indies. I think they're
still fairly young guys.
Right. They're so young, and the advantage is because they were still presently so young, because it happened so long ago, we're right back around to where a Crime Time reunion tour 10 years later or 12 years later would have been the sweet spot. And now,
to have them interact with the Street Profits would be amazing.
Oh yeah.
There's so many different scenarios you can, put together. But
it's
listen,
just-
it's another life taken way too soon.
And the wrestling community has really reached out and
Definitely.
really, bonded together, which they always do.
I was kind of
Yeah,
surprised that WWE didn't say anything on Raw. Actually,
No, I think they said something on the website.
They put it up on the website and I think on social media today though.
no,
because
but I mean they didn't like
Something
say
should have
it.
been on Raw, a
Even
picture or
right,
something.
even
I
if it
agree
was
with
just
you,
like,
yep.
oh, see, you know what though?
I don't think they wanted to. I don't think they wanted to do it.
He hasn't officially been
Maybe because
declared
they don't
dead
know
yet.
for sure.
Right. Yeah, they wanted to leave that.
Samoa Joe and
Possibility.
everybody at the announcers table, though, could have even said, we're sending out our hopes and
Yeah.
everything or whatever, and,
Well-
and recognized because of what they contributed to the WWE. It may have not been the biggest contribution, but it was a contribution.
They were very I would say out of all of the acts from that era, they were fucking memorable. Out of everybody who was just like, it was when Johnny Ace was just hiring any shitty model that he found out of a flip book one day, and he's like, "You're hired, you're women's champion," and like all the characters stunk, and then you had like Crime Time who would save the mid card stuff, and like
And the memorable theme and the whole
there was
entrance
Cena.
and
They had
everything.
how much higher can you get during that point in wrestling to be tag team with John Cena against JBL and
Right.
his faction? Like that's it for that era. That was the top. You main evented a show with Cena and JBL, who were the two of the top
That would have
guys.
been the opportune time to give them the tag belts.
I don't understand why they never got them. There was something. It was
Because
always something.
they had a second run. They came back.
Everything
Right, they left and came back,
everything
yeah.
I always heard was that they felt that Shad actually out of the two wasn't up to par, so to speak.
And that's
what always held them back, which I agree. I thought that was ridiculous for a big guy. I
Right.
thought he did really well. He moved well. He sold well.
He was
Obviously,
quick.
they were great
Yeah.
on the mic. He was quick for a big guy. I mean, he's one of those that you would put in the category that shouldn't move the way he did for being the size that he was,
Absolutely.
and he did.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
But so did you notice? Speaking of Raw, MVP, who has been posting statements on behalf of Shad's family, and obviously was very close to Shad. Everybody's been posting things about him. Matt Morgan came out and made some posts about it. A lot of the mid-card guys from that era were all posting because they all knew each other and they were all like very close at the time. But MVP was still to this day was friends with him. And
Only
you
from
could
the
see-
FCW days.
I feel like MVP's like friends with everybody.
Yeah, but
like-
did you see it? Like how?
Oh yeah, he is.
looked?
He's awesome. I met him too. He's awesome.
MVP.
I'm not saying it as
erect.
a bad
Yeah.
thing, by the way.
Mhm.
Like, I get it, you know.
Yeah. No, he would definitely be a friendly enough guy to be friends with everybody, MVP, but like that was one of his boys. Like
Yeah.
last night on TV, you could just see he wasn't himself. Like you could see he had been crying. You could see he was like not in good shape. But he went out there and he performed and he did a hell of a good job. But it was just like you knew just looking at him like there was other stuff going on.
You know, now that makes sense because he did seem a little off last night. And now
Yeah.
that you make that point, that hits the nail on the head.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine because that was like, that's how you met the guy. That's how you knew him for years and years was through wrestling. And now you're going to go out and do this thing that he can't do anymore.
You know, and
won't
this
be
is
able to
gonna
see.
sound kind of shitty, I guess, in a way, but from a wrestling business standpoint, it also sucks for MVP because this is a guy who's made a return which looked like was going to be a one-off thing and now has turned into really a full-time return and now getting a push to where it looks like he's going to be managing Bobby Lashley. So now he's got more on his plate and he's got to mentally, be in the moment and make this comeback something worth remembering. And now he's got to also deal with the mental aspect of losing his boy. And, it's just all around, man. It's just a horrible thing. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the family. And, we're hoping for a Castaway situation. You know what I mean?
Yes,
God, yeah.
We're gonna find him on a fucking island somewhere.
That would be great.
Have we heard anything, comments from JTG at all?
He tweeted out the last conversation text that they had.
Right.
But that was pretty much all he said that I've
And
seen.
it's cool that they were still boys after all these years too.
Yeah. No, of course. I mean, that
more
was
ways than one, you know.
I mean,
They
listen, the really good tag teams, you know, that stick it through and go through the good times and the bad times, you know, these guys, they ride together, they bunk together, you know, you form a bond that goes way beyond the wrestling business, and,
Right.
you know, it becomes a brotherhood kind of situation. So, you know, I totally get, you know, how they're still boys after the fact. You know, it's you know, it almost, you know, you become like a brother, you know, where, you know, you're going to
definitely.
fight, you're going to hate each other one minute and love each other the next. It's just, you know, the way it goes. And, you know, prime example, look at Hawk and Animal. You know, if you saw, you know, if you saw Dark Side of the Ring, you know, which was a fantastic episode as usual, but it did show you, you know, they definitely had, you know, their ups and downs. Animal had his issues. Hawk walked out on him and started LOD in Japan. I mean, it's just, I don't have to tell you the story, but you know, you get it. So it's heartbreaking, and you know, we hope the best. You know, but anyone else have anything else they want to add to Gaspar?
I just finally read that text that with him and JTG. I'm like crying here seeing that.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
It
like
was
heartbreaking.
right, but it was really just the last text they had, right?
But that's like some Ultimate Warrior shit. This text message says,
Yeah, it was
if
creepy,
I
right?
if I ever die tomorrow, just know I love you as a brother and a friend forever, even past this life.
Oh my God.
And it was January 26th, according to what this says.
So,
But even still, to send a text message like that, it's like some Ultimate Warrior shit.
Yeah, it's all You wonder if, you know, something.
I mean, the only difference is that with the Warrior, it happened 24 hours later. But
Right, I just noticed the date. I
it's
just went
pretty
back
damn
and checked
similar.
the date, but still, that's creepy. You know, like it's 2020, and like if I ever died tomorrow, the fact that he posted it on the 19th is a little creepy since it happened on the 18th too.
You know, listen, it shows you that live your lives, live your dreams, because you never know when it's going to be your last day. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's just the truth. And it sucks because, you know, we're all in quarantine and life just isn't normal anymore. And, you know, you would hate for it to be, you know, us to go out like this, but appreciate what you got.
That's a great picture, Eric.
I mean, these always mean a lot to me, but especially in these times, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
That one deserves a frame.
Yeah.
These people, well, it's going in a frame. These guys, I mean, look, these guys were our heroes when we were younger, and they're still to this day maybe in a different way, but it's
Yeah,
absolutely.
And like Piper said, like it's a brotherhood, it's a fraternity. He called it.
Yeah. Oh, it's, and you know, I know it might be less and less like that now. I don't know, but I feel like it was, you know, there was a point where you were traveling and driving together, and like it's different now. Some people have tour buses, and like people still ride together, but I don't know if it's unless you're in like NXT. I don't know how tight these big main rosters are now. It was different. It was a lot different back then. Even only 10, 15 years ago, it was a lot different to break into the business. It was a lot different to there was really no NXT. There was OVW, there was FCW, and you had to make your way up. You had to scratch and claw, and those guys fucking did it. And it's so odd, the timing of all of this, for this to happen with Shad and be so fresh in your minds when tonight's Dark Side of the Ring, the finale of this season, is one that I've wanted to watch and really just don't want to watch, is the death of Owen Hart.
I'm almost terrified to watch it.
I know.
To be honest with
me
you.
too.
They're saying there's new footage that they haven't, and I'm not expecting. I'm not expecting to see footage of Owen Hart falling. If I did, I don't know. I might fucking throw up. I don't know. I don't know how I'd be able to process that if I saw that.
I don't want to see that.
But they said I don't. But they said that there's maybe there's footage of like after it happened, somebody with a camcorder, like because people bring camcorders in the crowd.
Head of the ring, Lawler came in the ring and checked on.
Yeah, according to WWE, right? They have
are
footage.
releasing pictures tonight.
Oh
it's not video footage, but there are pictures.
So it's probably ringside stuff
around the ring, and there are pictures from inside that are showing where the scaffolding was.
Oh my God! So yeah, this is just to kind of really hammer home how fleeting and fragile all of this fucking shit is. We've got Shad, who in the middle of a fucking pandemic just wanted to take his kids to the beach and go swimming and enjoy a day that was normal rather than being locked in your house and wearing masks and staying 6 feet away from people. He wanted to just go out and have a fucking day with his family, and that was it. And now Owen was doing this blue blazer shit ass gimmick, excuse my French here, but he knew it. It was his first gimmick ever when he was first breaking in the business, and he wore a mask to like build up your experience. And then it was a joke. The whole reason they looped back around to this was like a big fucking joke. And it was a rib on him. It was a rib on Brett, who wasn't even fucking there anymore. It was a rib on the Hart family because there was still animosity over the fucking screw job. And it was just a disgusting circumstance that was completely unnecessary and didn't need to happen.
It's now 21 years ago this year.
And I understand Sting was coming from the rafters. Shawn Michaels slid down the thing at WrestleMania. These are things that happen a lot, but nobody ever did hey, let's dangle over the ring and then fall flat on your face and take a bump thing like that. And I don't know.
They said that they had done a practice run that morning and it went fine. I don't know if that's true or not.
Right, but from what so there's a I think
we're gonna learn a lot that we didn't know.
We're gonna learn a lot tonight. There's a transcript from Martha Hart's book that I read, and it had some kind of like people annotated it to kind of explain a little bit better. Basically, the theory is that everything was going fine, and they probably did a test. My assumption is they didn't do a test run where he was in the full costume. They just said, "Hey, Owen, get up in this thing," and he was there in like shorts and a t-shirt, buckled up into the thing and dropped, and everything was fine. I think what they might not have accounted for, and again, we'll find out later, is that he was in his full getup with the cape and the mask. So the assumption was that he was uncomfortable in the position he was in and tried to do one of these things. Something here hit the thing, and that was as soon as he wriggled enough for the latch to get undone, that was just there's nothing you can do at that point. It was over.
Who was the ref? Jimmy Corderas, I think.
Yes, the fired Jimmy Corderas, who's no longer with the WWE, but whatever. There's no loyalty in this fucking business anymore.
It was allegedly the emergency harness that he apparently pulled.
Right, from I guess
from
trying
behind
to reposition.
Him.
Yeah, trying to reposition the cape or reposition the outfit with the cape, whatever it was.
He had to have pulled the cord behind him that he didn't see. I don't know how you could pull the one that's in front of you to release.
And Vince, like you said, even sadder, the fact that it was a freaking meant to be a joke and not like a cool superhero kind of thing. Right. Meant to be a parody, or And
it was just, it's along the string of people being told to bark like a dog or having a fucking outhouse dumped on their head or whatever it's just this Piggy James and smashing people's faces into cakes and Kevin Owens having a pie thrown at him. It's just this disrespectful shit to take your superstars and make them look like fucking assholes for no reason.
Especially a guy like
you want them to look like
loved and loyal and a wonderful human being and family man. And
Owen Hart, could you imagine Owen Hart if we take out this tragic accident? Either Owen Hart gets fucking sick of it and goes to WCW for a little while and whatever, floats around, maybe goes to TNA or something. If he stays a company guy, he's in the middle of this 2001 Triple H reign of terror. Stone Cold and The Rock are big. Triple H is coming up. Mankind is in the mix and all that shit. And then you've got Owen. And then Owen becomes this guy that works with like Kurt Angle and helps build up the name of Kurt Angle, and like all of a sudden, like if it's 2005 and Owen is the champion on SmackDown, and Owen's got to fight the Undertaker, Owen's got to fight Brock, Owen's got to find a way, he's got to find a way to
Jericho, Benoit,
Guerrero, fucking the list goes on. It's such a tragedy to think about all the what ifs of Owen Hart's career and life. Just even now, what if he's still alive and because the Hart family dungeon, that I don't even think they own the house anymore. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that house is not owned by them anymore.
I think you're right.
And somebody was trying to get it added to the Canadian registration of historical places, so it wouldn't get like demolished or whatever. So some developer couldn't demolish it and then make a mall or something. But imagine Owen owning the dungeon and opening that school back up because he didn't want to wrestle and be on the road anymore. Him and fucking Brett and shit, Bruce and all the rest of them could train. Whatever, doesn't matter. Them training this next generation of superstars. Yeah. Owen had so much more to give to wrestling. He had so much more to give to life and to the world, and it was fucking snuffed out for no reason.
I mean, had he stayed there, I mean, Brett might have returned even earlier at that point.
And you're right. All it did was push everybody. It pushed Brett away. It fucking ruined a family. Yeah. It tore a family apart.
Yeah,
it literally tore a family apart.
From what I understand, Owen's kids don't see the rest of the family.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a big rift.
True. Yeah.
But I don't understand.
Like Brett was saying, he hasn't seen his niece and nephew in like a long ass time.
They weren't allowed to go to Jim Neidhart's services or anything either. She declined. She didn't go anywhere for Natty and nothing.
And that's horrible. Like, I mean, listen, we don't know what's going on, but, I mean, they can't be blaming Brett for what happened to Owen.
Martha blames everybody for what happened to Owen.
Well, that's true.
But, anyone that knows me knows that Owen Hart was my favorite wrestler of all time.
Right.
And it's just, and so I really have no words for,
It's horrible. It was just another one taken way too soon, and a talent like no other. I mean, he just and the stories you hear, what kind of guy he was in the back and being a prankster, and just it sucks. And
I remember that Mark Henry poem that he said the night.
Oh my God, on Raw. Oh my God.
The Raw is Owen episode.
So
this is I'm actually almost scared to watch tonight.
It's one of those things. It's too.
You have to see it.
I'm going to.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like you're terrified to see it, but as a fan, you have to because
it's
right. But even though it's 21 years, it's still a raw emotion.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh, I know.
Absolutely, totally. Me too.
We all remember like where we were when it happened.
Oh yeah. I remember it like I remember 9/11. Like you remember every little detail, every little, like it's the same kind of, not the same, but it's, you remember shit the same way. It's just,
It just sits in your memory 100%. Because I was even joking around with my dad the other day because I was watching that pay-per-view with him. And before they made the announcement, before Jim Ross made the announcement,
it was on the news.
My mother yelled from the news upstairs and goes, whoever that guy was that you were talking about earlier, she goes, he's dead. We're like, what?
Oh, see, and
So
I was at my best friend's, and his mother was in the kitchen. We were in the living room watching the pay-per-view, and she comes in and she goes, did somebody just die? And we were like, you've got to be kidding. And then that's how, but it was same kind of situation. Man, it sucks.
Because they broke it on, Steve, they broke it on the 10 o'clock news in New York. Right. Pay-per-view didn't end until 11. So it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Right.
That was the top story.
For JR and Lawler to have to break that news live on a pay-per-view.
And continue.
Yeah.
Yes.
And do a whole fucking show afterward.
Yeah, Jerry's face when he came back to the ring.
Well, Jerry
was just.
Well, Jerry was there. I mean, he was.
I know. He jumped from the announcer's table and went right into the ring. So, but he was.
And that's the most somber I've ever heard JR next to when he lost his wife a couple of years ago.
Jan,
Yeah.
It was tough.
To move. I don't know if this is a happier thing or not. I don't know when you guys wanted a Undertaker show at all.
Oh, yes.
Well, I saw the first chapter. I haven't seen chapter 2 yet. I'm excited to see it. And the third one I think is coming out shortly. But the first one, it's probably one of the best they've ever done.
These things are so well done. It's incredible.
And
sorry, Steve, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say it's amazing the amount of years that they've been doing it. Like, he went from being a guy who you weren't allowed to, do anything like this to, I mean, you're talking, 3 or 4 years worth.
Well, just to interject here, at WrestleMania in Orlando, which was 2 or 3 years ago, there was a separate camera crew from where I was sitting in kind of like not the upper bowl, but like just when the stadium transitions from the floor seats into the bowl seats. So basically the first couple rows of the actual football stadium seats. There was a separate film crew that came in. They were filming the match. They were filming crowd reactions. They had one camera that was on the Undertaker's wife, who was sitting on the floor seats. So everything was...
She was also sitting next to Roman's father.
Right, and you were... But the way... So what happened was, at the time, you're looking at all this happen. These guys have this film crew, separate film crew. You can tell it's separate from... They're not filming WrestleMania. WrestleMania is over that way, and they're filming all of this other garbage. At the end of the night, Roman Reigns beats The Undertaker. Go, oh, shit, all right, The Undertaker's retiring. They filmed all this for the eventual video package, documentary, whatever it is. I didn't think about it for another couple of years because The Undertaker never ended up retiring. You know what I mean? So it ended up that this footage that I saw them film a couple of years ago, they didn't even use, they used zero of it until they put this stuff out, which is interesting.
That is interesting.
Because of how much stuff they have saved and recorded in the can, they could just put out.
It's by far one of the best original products that the WWE has put out. The story is just incredible, and I mean, you know, who doesn't love The Undertaker? But this just... It makes you never want him to retire. As much as you want him to, you don't want him to, because...
Well, he's got 15 years left on his deal.
Yeah, well, listen, and I don't know if this is true, so don't quote me on it, but I'm also hearing that he's having some money issues, and this was Vince's way of thanking him for everything he's done, and giving him a contract that he's going to continuously get paid for the next 15 years. It's not that he's going to be wrestling a bunch of times. You're going to get a few more matches, I'm sure, but...
That's exactly what I was going to ask. Did anyone hear about the rumor that he's, like, short for money?
See,
that's what I'm hearing.
I kind of thought that it was because, if you remember last year, right around this time, AEW was having Double or Nothing in May, and that's Saturday, by the way, AEW's pay-per-view to this year. But last year they were having Double or Nothing, and they were having the StarCast convention in the days leading up to it. The Undertaker had just finished up a deal with WWE. He had just done John Cena at WrestleMania, and that was the only thing that was left on the hook for him. So he finished that, and Conrad Thompson, podcast guru, etc., founder of StarCast, brokered a deal to bring The Undertaker in. From what I heard, this was like a $500,000, legitimately like a $500,000 fucking show up to this
Do an
convention.
appearance, right.
To literally just put your black hat on and your coat and go take pictures with people.
Right.
And he was going to make like I think the base might have been like $250. The base was either $250 or $500,000, and then he was getting incentives on top of that for how many people were going to come in for, you know, the autographs and pictures. And think about it, for the big name guys, when you try to get Sting, Hogan, fucking guys like that, excuse me, it's very expensive. Thank you. It's
I don't even think you can get The Rock anymore at all.
Oh, no.
How big of a star he is in Hollywood.
So that convention freaked out Vince McMahon because he kind of thought, which everybody did, this guy's a WWE lifer. He's not going to do any of this shit. But he wanted to, you know, money problems or whatever it is, you still want to make money.
Well, now hold on a second. Let's get one thing straight. My opinion, but in my heart of hearts, I think he would never, ever work for another promotion.
Absolutely.
That does not mean that the guy can't go to a convention and make $500,000. There should be no fear on Vince. This man has shown his loyalty to the fact that money is an issue and he can make money by doing conventions. He's never going to lace the boots and work in AEW or TNA or Ring of Honor or, I mean...
The Undertaker in any other promotion anyway.
Right.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I don't think he would ever wrestle for another promotion, but it was just like the idea of this is a character that Vince McMahon and Mark Calloway cultivated since
the greatest character ever in the wrestling business.
Right. So
yeah,
when you see The Undertaker at StarCast, you're like, oh, Well, that's just a guy. You see the Undertaker agree to do the over the ropes or whatever it was, and then they did it inside the ropes in England. They did a tour with like JR. They did tours for like JR, did a question and answer tour. I think Goldust did when they bring in big stars. And the Undertaker signed up and did one. It was something he was contracted to do before Vince snapped
he
him
showed
back
up at one of Brock's UFC matches.
Right, just as like a regular guy. But it's those things that he's making money. He made a lot of money for those appearances, or would have made a lot of money at StarCast. But it was something that kind of not ruined the mystique, but it changed the mystique of the Undertaker. So Vince McMahon was like, again, part of this, absolutely I agree, is a thank you for your service, thank you for being loyal, thank you for not jumping ship to WCW, all that stuff. Because Vince McMahon is very loyal to the people who are loyal to him. That's why Kevin Dunn will never get fired. Kevin Dunn's father stored Kevin Dunn's father stored the WWF tapes in the trunk of his car when Titan Tower caught on fire so that the tapes wouldn't get destroyed. And ever since then, Kevin Dunn has had a fucking job for life. He will never, ever get fired. Vince McMahon is look at even Fink. Fink was one of those guys. After he was done being a ring announcer, they found a job for him. He's a weird dude, this Vince McMahon. He's very loyal to some people.
Still
and other people.
Pat Patterson, I think.
But like Drew Gulak, go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? It's like the good brothers, fucking Doc Gallows,
Steve,
go fuck yourself.
Not to spoil anything, but the second episode does get into the Vince Undertaker relationship, and it's magnificent.
I can't wait. Yeah. One thing I will say too with Gulak, everyone's like, fuck WWE, for firing him, and from what I'm understanding, his contract expired. They offered him another contract extension, but no raise. He didn't like that, and then they just said, okay, then we're going to release you. At the end of the day, I understand he would want a raise. I get it. Yeah. We're also dealing with a pandemic going on where he had to release people. So to ask for that now, I actually think shame on him, and he deserved to be let go. I'm probably in the minority compared to what I've been reading, but let's be honest, business is business.
And hey, look, if you look at the positive...
He's not a huge draw. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if you look at the positive of that from his perspective, he got his last match with Daniel fucking Bryan. I mean,
that's true too.
So, but here's
the way to go out. Then
no, it's a good way to go out, but it's definitely a complicated situation. I don't think anybody's completely
this year. The whole thing with all the releases and everything. This is one of the most unprecedented circumstances this world has ever seen.
But so there's a couple ways to look at that. Is like, yes, I understand. Like, I get it. He shouldn't be asking for a raise in a pandemic, but at the same time, he's a lower level guy that all of a sudden they said, okay, you're going to go with Daniel Bryan, who was a former WWE champion. He's a big name. You're working with this guy, and you've been working with him for 4 or 5 months or whatever it is. And he goes, well, my contract's up. I think if you're going to move me up the card, I should get some more money for being further up the card. Pandemic aside, I understand. It wasn't necessarily the best business decision to ask for a raise in a pandemic. Absolutely, I agree.
But this was his trial to see if he can hang with Daniel Bryan. This wasn't solidified that this was going to be perfect.
Right. But here's the weird thing. So the contract was set to expire. Gulak says, I want a raise. Rather than the WWE saying, no, take it or leave it, they said no, and we're going to rescind our offer to extend your contract.
Well, because they probably were like, fuck him. Like, what kind of balls do you have to fucking ask for that
exactly.
Right now?
Yep.
Be grateful that we're fucking not firing you like the people that we did have to let go. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I listen, I'm back full-time in my job, and I had to take a pay cut. But, their answer is, but you have a job. Yeah. So, you know what? I still have health insurance and whatnot, and, at the end of the day, but...
Got more health insurance than Drew Gulak.
Yeah.
Sorry, Drew.
I think that's a little too soon, Vince. A little too soon.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Drew doesn't have any of that health insurance. He's like, you got any more of that health insurance? Oh, shit.
But he's got his health. Nobody killed him.
This is true. So for the Undertaker thing, this is going to all tie everything in a nice, neat little bow, even though we're not at the top of the hour yet. But this is a nice little piece of symmetry. In the Undertaker documentary, the Undertaker confirms, he says, I was cool as a cucumber. I hate cucumbers. And this loops back to a story that I think Mark Henry told about The Undertaker legitimately being afraid of cucumbers. He doesn't just like them. He has a strong aversion to them. So there was one story, and I don't know if this was Owen or not, so I won't give it to him, but there's a second one that was Owen. The first one was Undertaker comes backstage one day. His hat is sitting on the chair, but his hat is filled with cucumbers, and he won't touch it. So Paul Bearer had to fucking get rid of the cucumbers out of his hat and then give his hat back to him. And I'm talking about the actual Undertaker hat. Somebody put cucumbers in. There was a point where Owen came out to the ring with a fucking cucumber, like the Undertaker, like he was gonna pull out the urn, and he pulled out a cucumber. And like it was during a house show, and the Undertaker had to like no sell it, but it was like the funniest fucking thing in the world. Like he had the cucumber like it's an urn. Imagine that shit. Come on now.
There were times where people like tried to break Taker in like with like make him laugh and shit, you know?
Oh yeah. My favorite one though, not necessarily hit breaking, but it was a house show in like Spain or something, and you'll see this. It's used as a meme now, as like my dog when he sees the mailman or something like that. And the Undertaker's like getting everybody hyped up for a hot tag, and he's at one turnbuckle and he runs to the other corner and he runs out and he's shaking the ropes and he's like, yeah, and he's doing like a 1980s Hulk Hogan comeback for no reason other than he wanted to just do it that one night. And he hits this big comeback. And he could do that. Was the amazing thing. The thing that I learned from him and Stone Cold at that podcast was Mean Mark Callis, before he became The Undertaker, could do all of this fucking high-flying stuff that big guys aren't supposed to do. He could take big bumps. He was jumping off the ropes. He was doing like when the Giant, the Big Show, used to do the moonsault, and you're like, oh, he shouldn't fucking do the moonsault. He did all these little guy moves as a big guy, and they're like, no, you're gonna be The Undertaker. You're not gonna sell anything. So like he had to go from overselling almost and taking these big bumps to taking no bumps, and like overselling his being hit to not selling when he was being hit. And that's completely opposite of what every wrestler has ever been trained to do ever. So the fact that he had to do this and did it so well for so long, I mean, speaks
and no
to,
one else
to
but the man
character.
Mark Calloway could have played this character.
No, he's
nobody.
Because there's a little bit of the tinge of like, okay, Paul Bearer was perfect because Percy Pringle was the indie or the NWA name, Percy Pringle III.
He worked at a funeral parlor.
Right. He was an actual fucking
Paul Bearer.
Undertaker or mortician or whatever. So they call it, so Paul Bearer, that worked. And then you get this guy who at the time in the late, in like the early 90s, the it was still kind of like the 80s where they associated rock and roll and tattoos and all that. It was the devil. Oh, and he rides a motorcycle. He must be the devil. You know what I mean? It was just one of those things that worked, where this guy with sleeve tattoos in a time where sleeve tattoos weren't a thing, and tattoos on his neck, where tattoos on your neck really wasn't a thing, and he drove a motorcycle, and he was this gothic-looking guy, and they're like, yep, okay, he's going to be literally a zombie, or whatever the fuck they decided The Undertaker was. And it worked because he was just like, that was the stuff he was into. He was into skulls and shit and like dark clothing and wearing the leather jacket. And all. That was just, it was a part of him that he was able to make into a full character.
That debut, Kat, Steve, and I were all, I think, 10 years old, like 90, something like that. And I don't know how young you were, Vince, but all I know is
I was 3.
Out of me.
Shut up! Fuck up.
Sorry.
I just remember my mouth hitting the floor, and I was just like frozen. I was like, "What the fuck is walking to the ring right now?"
Crowd, and you see all these little kids like in fright. Oh my god!
He scared the piss out of me.
Yeah.
The music. Again, Jim Johnston is a fucking genius.
Yes.
It's the whole pack. It's everybody worked together. It was Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson and everybody that fucking wrote the shit. And The Undertaker did a good job with his part. Paul Bearer did a good job with his part. Jim Johnston kept putting out really good music to set the mood. That's what really scared. If you saw that guy without the music, he's still scary. When they play the fucking funeral march, that's the song they play when somebody dies in a movie. You know what I mean? Like, you hear that and you go, oh, that's the funeral song. And then you see this fucking guy come out in the smoke and the suit and the tie. Yes, it scares the shit out of you.
You know what used to freak me out? When he used to put the wrestlers in the body bag after the match.
That was
and
awesome.
then he would carry you on the body bags out. That used to freak the crap out of me. It was awesome.
Really creepy.
He mentioned that the eye roll thing was like kind of like it just kind of happened
Against Greg the Hammer Valentine, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, but that body bag shit used to make me go bonkers. Like, you can't breathe in there.
But everything worked. The urn, the gear.
People getting locked in the casket on the funeral parlor and shit.
Classic.
Incredible.
Best funeral parlor ever. Undertaker, Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah.
And this might have been known as one of the worst things to ever happen, but I still thought it was cool. Undertaker versus Undertaker.
Yes. I loved it.
Oh, at the time, yeah. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, you look back and you go, oh, wait, that's Brian Lee, primetime Brian Lee, and he's 6 inches shorter. But whatever, like, fuck, there were 2 Undertakers. This was before Kane. People don't realize this was before it was BK.
And they made it work.
Before Kane. Yeah.
And it was all brought to you by Domino's. Remember every single commercial for that? Undertaker versus Undertaker.
They had freaking Leslie Nielsen on the search.
Oh my God, I remember that.
Yeah, so then all those segments.
Naked gun shit.
He ordered half a dozen coffin-shaped donuts. It's just like they were interviewing some guy. I saw the hearse drive by. Did you see the hearse? And it's like, oh shit. They're doing all these "Where are the Undertaker" things, and then finally he comes up. I don't know.
I wanted a sighting.
Right? Or even when they beat the Undertaker and they put him in the casket, like every heel had to beat him up and throw him in the casket, and then the ghost came up, and it wasn't actually him, but it was a goat. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, when it came up to the Titantron. Yep.
Yeah, and the ghost float up, and then all of a sudden he's on the Titantron, and then the fucking ghost floats out of the thing. Oh my god. I
think that was Marty Jannetty.
Yeah, yes. The rumor is that it was Marty, and then I heard another thing where it's like, oh no, it wasn't actually Marty. It was some other unknown guy. But I like to believe that it was Marty because I like to imagine Marty just getting extremely fucking high, and then, all right, strap me up, and he's floating among the crowd. He's like, oh my god, this is fucking awesome.
Do we want to talk about that Buff Bagwell thing? What the fuck was that?
Oh, all right, yes, because all right. Let me just break down for you. So, just so you guys know, last night was Monday Night Raw. It was 3 hours of completely missable television. If you didn't see it, there's no reason to watch it. Find the recaps on YouTube.
Hold on. You should go back and watch the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits.
But that's what
and
I'm
the
saying.
axe
You can
throwing.
find that shit on YouTube.
That was
and
great.
Again, that's another segment that's just designed to make everybody look like an asshole.
But it was hilarious.
It's fun. It is funny. But
it was better than the basketball one.
It doesn't make me think that the Viking Raiders are any more tough or intimidating than the. Now it's like they're the fucking Highlanders, and they're gonna slap each other in the face when they tag in. You know what I mean?
I'm Robbie.
They're bushwhackers now. Like that's what I don't want to happen to the Viking Raiders is them being new bushwhackers. But anyway,
bite your tongue.
Yes, I know. God, pray. But anyway. Yes, Raw happened. It was a show. 1.75 million people watched it. It wasn't even that important. It doesn't matter. If you really need to know, Baron Corbin and Charlotte were on the show, so that's a reason to just not watch. And Seth Rollins, and nobody gives a shit about Seth Rollins either. But anyway, go ahead, Eric. What were you saying about the? Because I wanted to just get it in. We didn't talk about Raw for 45 minutes. I just wanted to make sure people were understanding. Yeah. We watched Raw. We just don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You were the one I think that posted this video of Buff Bagwell.
Yes.
And we're all just like baffled. I mean,
and he's talking about how he still looks great, and I'm looking at him and I'm like,
no,
what
bro.
Somebody beat him up or something?
Like it looks like he got allergic to something, and his face was like.
Or somebody beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, I used to love him. No.
What is it? Look at his face.
Just can't get enough. I mean, you kidding me? I've got a broke face, and I'm still good looking. Look at me.
What is going on?
Okay, where is Carol Baskin when you need him? Because he looks like Joe Exotic.
He really does. He looks like Joe Exotic.
Hilarious.
Somebody get the sardine oil, please.
It's weird too because I met him a few years ago at a convention, and he was the opposite of that. He was fucking awesome.
Oh, I know.
I think so. Like I don't know what is going on there.
That's some good drugs. That's what's going on there.
But it looks like somebody beat the shit out of him too. That's the other thing. It's like his face is all fucked up, like he got beat up.
Looks like when Hogan came out at Mania 9 with the black eye.
They try to blame that one on
It's a mix of-
Macho Man too.
I know, he jumped me outside the gym.
I saw the lust in your eyes, Hogan. You were lusting after Elizabeth.
They were already divorced by that point.
I know.
They got divorced like 6 months earlier. Come on.
Oh.
I love my Randy. I'm sorry. I still love him.
Yeah. So, I guess we'll touch a little bit on Raw the for a couple of minutes until we pack up here. But
what happened with the Iconics?
Yes. So the a couple weird things happened.
Are they going to split those two already?
I hope not.
I hope that was just a thing where it was kind of one of those, oh, are they or are they not? And then like next week they're just like a stronger tag team because of it. I hope, because why the fuck? Just go ahead, split them up like Enzo and Cass. That worked out for everybody in the end. Like what the fuck? You keep two guys together. You don't separate peanut butter and jelly.
The only one that's going to benefit from the split is going to be Peyton Royce.
Right? Yeah, Billy might as well fucking
go home.
Right, she might as well go home to Australia or call Cody. I mean, shit.
I don't think Cody would take her.
I don't know.
I mean, not in singles. As a team, he would take them. As a singles competitor, it's not worth to take either one of them, really.
No, and that's the thing. They're better together than they are apart, and WWE doesn't fucking get it.
Well,
and then,
they haven't split them yet. So
They haven't. The other thing they did was they split off. So speaking of people joining allegiances and such, Austin Theory, who was the diversity hire for the Hispanic gang, got kicked out of. He got kicked out of the gang by the Hispanics, and then Seth came over.
And he got saved.
And he's saved. So now he's a member of Seth's church or his congregation or whatever. And it's the straight edge society all over again. And I don't give a shit. I just don't.
Straight edge society was way cooler than this bullshit.
But Seth comes in.
I would listen to CM Punk.
Yes.
I would follow him. I ain't following Seth.
Right. And Seth, listen, I get it. He wants to try something new. But the suit with the skinny black tie and the one black glove. Is he supposed to be
John Wick? You know?
He looks like John Wick or like the Hitman video games and the Hitman movies. And Low Key, who was actually bald, so he pulled it off, used to dress like Hitman in this exact same shit with the leather glove and the suit. I know the tie was red, and but whatever. It's the same shit. Like it's not. It's the Seth Rollins stuff doesn't attract me because I've seen this shit before. You know what I mean? Like I've seen the Straight Edge Society. I've seen Low Key dressed like the Hitman video games. I've seen this like, I'm the savior.
The Gathering with Raven,
whatever,
and like that kind of thing.
Right,
The
it's
Flock.
all very reminiscent.
We've seen
Yes,
it.
the Flock, the Gathering, the fucking, the York Foundation because she.
Oh my
brainwashed
God.
people. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Holy shit. Did you just say the York Foundation?
Well,
You weren't even born yet.
I know. I probably wasn't. I might not have been. You're right. I might not have been born.
Before Terry was Marlena, she was Alexandra York.
Alexander York. And so was Paul E. Dangerously.
And Terrence Taylor. They had to change everybody's name if you had a proper name now.
She had a Zach Morris cell phone.
Shit, fucking Ricky Morton was in that. Richard Morton.
Yes, Richard, and that was. But then they had the laptop. That was the key to the whole thing.
Terrence Taylor.
They would put their information in the laptop, and the laptop was supposed to tell them how to beat the opponent. It never worked, but I don't think it ever once worked. I don't think they're.
That's a throwback.
I totally drew a blank to even remember anything about the York Foundation until you just said it. And what was his name? Mr. Hughes. Mr. Hughes was in it too.
Mr. Hughes, who was the worst wrestler but the best bodyguard.
Yeah.
He was a terrible wrestler.
That guy got hit with the ugly stick one too many times.
My favorite thing about Mr. Hughes, there was an old match. It was on $5 Wrestling, one of the old $5 Wrestlings. And they're reviewing it. And they go, let's see how long Mr. Hughes wrestles with his sunglasses on. This fucking guy wrestled the entire match without the sunglasses falling off once.
He had such tiny eyes, though, for how big he was. They were just like these little beamers, like a freaking little cat eye or something.
Well, that's why the sunglasses were always so small. I think that's why they stuck on his
There's
face.
a picture of me with him and Ernest Miller, which is a weird combo, but
that is a very weird combination.
But they were next to each other at the convention. But yeah, he wore his sunglasses.
He lived it. He lives.
I
He
think
lives the
he
fucking
bought those
time.
in the kitty section somewhere, man, because
They look way too small in this.
Somewhat
Yeah.
similar thing. Like Shawn Michaels used to wrestle full matches while chewing gum.
Yep. Ugh, that was like a Mick Foley would do that when he put on weight to try and get like moisture in his mouth and get cardio and like it sucks.
I'll tell you what though, I still love the Jerry Lawler match when he commentated his own match.
Oh yeah, the Jerry was always great for shit like that, man.
Well, we have made it to the top of the hour.
We did.
Wow.
We did.
With even a York Foundation reference. I mean,
Wow.
I mean, going.
where else
we
are you
went-
going
we
to
went
get that
deep.
but the War Report?
And not
You
many
know?
places.
not many
That's for
places,
sure.
because I don't know how many people
Who's
remember.
going to
the
remember
York thing.
Alexandra York and the York Foundation? Nobody. But
Us.
of course, yes, us. So if you,
Isn't that when she and Dustin like first met?
Yep.
yeah, because she was a makeup and hair person for Turner. She wouldn't even work for the NWA. She was a makeup and hair person for Turner. And her and Tony Schiavone became friends, and like she would meet. She just met people because she was doing their hair, and they liked her so much. And like, wow, this girl's pretty. Let's put her on TV. And then there you go.
Oh, thank God they didn't give her a penis.
Yeah.
Oh, what
Yeah,
was that? Okay,
we learned
why-
that today.
We'll do this in 30 seconds. There was a report that came out that Vince McMahon wanted a female talent to wear a fake penis as a joke. Maybe what is this?
I
don't know what's
What is
funny
that?
about that.
I didn't know it'd be really funny.
Who was it?
They wanted Marlena to wear it while she
Harry.
was with Goldust because she wanted it. They wanted her to be
And I think this was
androgynous.
during the time where Goldust was really like weird and wearing the ball
Yes,
bag.
they
and shit.
wanted them both to actually have no physical sexuality. So him being this androgynous character, her having a penis under the dress was supposed to be like,
That's fucking hilarious.
I don't know what the hell is up with you two, but it works.
That's hilarious.
You're gonna put it in his ass. You're gonna put it in his ass.
Can you imagine going home and explaining that to Dakota?
We're gonna induct you into the Fuck My Ass Club.
And on that note, we will see you next week.
Oh, man, be sure to follow us on social media at Tag Me a Date, no spaces. Tag Me a Date, all one word. TagMeADate.com website is being redesigned and will relaunch when the world gets a little bit more normal. Follow our social media. Go to SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, or Apple Podcasts to find the audio version of this podcast, which gets put up a few days after we go live. We go live every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. on Eastern Time. We're live on Twitch. We're live on YouTube. And then again, the audio version gets uploaded to those podcast apps day or two later, depending on when Ryan pulls the audio. So it's usually a couple days. But follow us on social media. Stay tuned for the audio version. If you like the audio version, if you like the video version, come on back next week, next Tuesday, 7 p.m., right here on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com, type in Tag Me a Date in the search bar, you'll find our account. Subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff, and come back next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time for another edition of The War Report, brought to you by TagMeADate.com. Thank you so much